What were your first impressions of Jacques when you met him?
It's a funny story because I guess I didn't really show up on the best day when I went for my first training, because Jacques was in a bit of a transitional time with his company. He was very bitter with Pierre-Carl Ouellet, and I guess they had just gone their separate ways. And so my first day of being there, Jacques was giving a speech to the other students saying how people have screwed him over, people have stabbed him in the back, people like Pierre-Carl Ouellet, and how, you know, because of this, he can't have water in his pool at home anymore for his kids. And so this is the kind of Jacques that I saw. It wasn't Jacques the superstar, it wasn't Jacques the former Intercontinental Champion. It was Jacques Rougeau more as a humbled, almost a bit of a broken man when I met him. Kevin Owens was there for 2 weeks. We barely crossed paths. So I mean, 2 weeks into my training, he was on his way out. Another one that Jacques had a lot of animosity towards. Pierre-Carl Ouellet had recently made a departure from the company, in addition to other people who didn't really go on to have any name value. But it was a transitional time.
What was Jacques' animosity towards Owens about in those days?
Now, I don't entirely know the full spectrum of where it started, but I know that Jacques, for the longest time, had wanted exclusivity on his wrestlers. So he didn't want them performing in other companies throughout the province. And then he had kind of lightened his stance on that. From what I was told, he was thinking of maybe retiring, didn't have the time to dedicate to the school as much as before, so he still wanted his students to get experience and evolve as performers. So he allowed them to go to other companies, and then he had a change of heart, and he decided he wanted to take his company to the next level, and so he wanted to have all of his wrestlers exclusive to him, and from what I'm told, he made it seem like there would be big opportunities, WWE opportunities for them in their future if they're exclusive. Now, it put Kevin in a position, from what I'm told, and what I saw as well. I mean, I saw him there, pondering. The second week I was there, he was there sitting by himself pondering some sort of heart-to-heart discussion he just had with Jacques. And from what I understand, it was that Jacques had told him, look, stick with me. There are opportunities coming with WWE. We'll get you there. But he was getting tons of opportunities with other companies. And he ultimately chose to leave Jacques and take what the independent scene had to offer to him, and that caused a big rift with Jacques. And Jacques would bash him almost religiously. Like, it was not something that Jacques let go of. He would consistently bring up people who've stabbed me in the back. And the first two names, when he talked people stabbing him in the back, would be either Kevin or PCO. And this is my first days in training. This is what we'd always be hearing.
Did you wrestle on many of Jacques' events in those days?
Yeah, I'd say I competed on about 5 or 6 events for Jacques. I really enjoyed my time there. He treated me very well, both as a trainer and as a performer. I was a featured performer on his shows. Had some very memorable matches with Max Boyer, most notably, who is still a friend of mine to this day. And Jacques, I remember the day I left Jacques, and he had said how he wanted me to sign a contract with him. Now, if that contract has any kind of validity, if it was a real one or not, he had wanted me to sign with him. And he had said, he's like, I really admire you. I want to teach you everything I know, but I want to make sure that my investment is protected. I want to make sure that you don't take what I teach you and go somewhere else. Again, whether that means anything or not, I appreciated that he said that. But unfortunately for me, I wanted to expand my horizons. I wasn't satisfied being just the best of the school. I wanted to test my skills against the best the world had to offer.
And you mentioned Jacques brought up Carl Ouellet's name a lot in those days. Did you have much contact with Carl Ouellet at all over the years?
Initially, little to none. I first knew of Carl through seeing him perform in the WWF, obviously, as part of the Quebecers, in ECW, WCW. But personally, I don't think I had met him until maybe around 2004, 2005. I'd seen him performing a few encounters. I had actually been involved. I was a ringside enforcer for one of his matches. And only recently, only in 2016, did I get a chance to actually be a part of a match with Pierre-Carl Ouellet, where we teamed to take on Speedball Mike Bailey and Benjamin Tull. And it was a good experience. Really enjoyed working with Carl. Great guy.
And Vince Russo told us in one of our interviews recently that comparing Carl Ouellette's talent to Kevin Owens is like apples and oranges, that if Carl Ouellet would be in today's WWE environment, he would be considered a much better wrestler than Owens. How would you compare the two physique-wise and in-ring ability-wise?
Well, I mean, physique-wise, there's no comparison. Carl Ouellet is an imposing, muscular individual. You know, you look at Kevin Owens, he looks like your average person. And in a lot of ways, and I'm trying to put a positive spin on this, I know with Kevin and myself, there's clearly disdain, there's clearly dislike, that's fine by me. But I'm trying to put a positive spin on this in that I think Kevin looks like the average person you would see in the audience. I mean, you can go anywhere. You can go to Wendy's and you'll see a guy behind a counter looks like Kevin. You'll go to GameStop, you'll see a guy behind the counter looks like Kevin. Pierre-Carl Ouellet, on the other hand, is the kind of person you take notice of when he walks into somewhere. You know, he can go into anywhere and you will notice him because he is a large, imposing man. He has definitely a presence to him that never goes unnoticed.
And as far as legitimate tough guys around this scene, where they're both from the Quebec independent wrestling scene, who's considered legit tough between those two?
Well, I mean, Carl Ouellet stood up to Kevin Nash. We all know about that. You know, I've talked to Carl about that. I had a great conversation with him over dinner after a show in Shawinigan where we talked about that. Kevin didn't really stand up to me. You know, came in like a bull in a china shop. Didn't really stand up to me when push came to shove. And so, you know, when it comes to toughness, I'd say if those two were in an octagon, my money would be on PCO.